Hey, it's Ashley from Westcott, and today I'm going to be going over a recent shoot where I was able to get two completely different looks just by changing one thing, my white balance. So before I get into this lighting breakdown, if you're new to our channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on bell notifications. That way you can be the first to know when we post new videos. White balance plays a really important role in photography, and choosing what white balance to shoot to can dramatically change the mood of the photo. In the case of this shoot, I was able to get two entirely different looks just by changing the white balance. The first looks like it was shot during the early morning light, during that golden hour time. And the other one is much darker and more dramatic, and it feels like it's almost lit by moonlight. But the best part of this is that both of these photos use the exact same lighting, so let's get into the setup of the shoot. I went into the shoot with the intention of getting a shot where my model looks like she's in a dark room, looking at a window with some early morning light coming through. So to set this up, I started by bringing in my backdrop. Since I wanted my model to look like she was in a house instead of a studio, I decided to use Westcott's dark molding backdrop. And this is printed on canvas. And I mounted it to an X-drop backdrop stand, also by Westcott. This helps create a scene for my image instead of just shooting against a plain wall in the studio. Once I got my background up, I brought in my main light, an FJ400 modified by an optical spot. Now this is a very unique modifier in that it's capable of focusing the light to make super crisp patterns. So the really nice thing about this optical spot is it actually has a Canon EF type mount lens. This means I was able to swap out my lens for a 50mm instead of the included 150mm. What this means is I was able to get a bigger light pattern while still keeping my modifier closer to my subject. Since I wanted the light to be streaking across my model and the background, I placed the light as far to the side as possible, almost in line with the backdrop. I then tested a few different gobos until I found the one that I liked for the shoot. For this, I chose to use the ray pattern gobo since I thought it looked most like light rays coming through an open window and gave me the look I was aiming for. I then defocused the lens on the optical spot. That way the lines of light would not be as crisp and give me a more natural look. I also added a full stop CTO gel, or color temperature orange, to the front of the optical spot. Since I wanted the photo to look like early morning light coming through a window, I simply added a gel so that the light would mimic the golden hour look. After I got my main light set up, I brought in a second FJ400 just to add a little bit of fill light. This was modified with a Rapid Box Octa M, and I placed it to the left of my subject. One decision I had to make when adding in my fill light was exactly how much fill I wanted to add. So I took a few test shots, one at a higher light output and one at a lower output, and as you can see in these images, just dramatically changes how the images look. With the one that has more fill light, you can see more of the background, making it look like the model was in a well-lit room. Whereas the one with the lower output, the rays look a lot more dramatic. How much fill light to include all comes down to personal preference and how you want the photo to look. I decided to go somewhere in the middle of these two, just enough light that you can make out the details in the shadow and the background, but still keeping those light rays dramatic. So once I started shooting, I instructed my model to stand as close to the backdrop as possible without touching it, just to help create the illusion of her leaning against a wall. I also wanted to make sure to turn on the modeling lamp on my strobe with the optical spot. Since the light pattern was such a narrow beam of light, having the modeling lamp on really makes it so I can tell where the light is falling on my model's face. That way I can more easily direct my model when she's being properly lit. So throughout the whole shoot, my camera was set at 5500 degrees Kelvin. But since I was shooting in RAW format, I was easily able to change the white balance in post-processing, which completely changes the mood of the image. When working with mixed lighting, deciding which light to white balance to can dramatically change the look of the image. In this case, if I set the white balance to 5500 Kelvin to match the fill light, the light coming from the optical spot will be a very warm color, making it look like early morning light coming from the window. Where on the other hand, if I set my white balance to match the CTO gel of the optical spot at 2800 Kelvin, the light coming from the fill light will appear more blue and make it look like moonlight coming in through a window with a much cooler and dramatic feel. This is why I always recommend shooting in RAW. It gives you a lot more options and control over what you can do in post. You can of course also do this in camera simply by changing your white balance in camera from 5500 to 2800. But to me, it's just as easy to do it in post-processing. Plus, if I like a pose a model is doing, I can easily make it either or, making it either the cool style or the warm glowy style, and I'm not limited to what I captured in camera. So let me know in the comments below which of these two looks you like better, and as always, thanks for watching.